What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Phil Perry's going to jump in with me in a second, but before Phil jumps in, I want to set the table with this. The Patriots are 3-2 over their past 5 games. And before every single one of them, we listed all the things they needed to be wary of, all the things they needed to fear in that game. They were playing the Steelers. We talked about Brian Flores and the fact New England's offensive line and running game were a shambles. They beat Pittsburgh. We figured they'd get carved up by Aaron Rodgers. They really didn't. We figured Bailey Zappe would pee down his leg in his first start, and the Lions' high-scoring offense would put up some points. They didn't put up a single point, and Bailey didn't pee down his leg. And then we figured that at home, the Browns, with a functional coach and a veteran quarterback and a talent-laden defense, would be at least a challenge for the Patriots, and the Patriots rolled them. Now, it turns into this. The Steelers suck. The Packers just lost to the Jets. The Lions are the Lions. The Browns are the Browns. Hell, the Ravens aren't even good, and the Patriots lost to them. So which is it? That's what I'm wondering here. Are the Patriots an average team playing well, or are they actually good? Are the teams they beat bad anyway? Or did the Patriots have a hand in making them look bad on that day? My opinion, any win is a good win for the 2022 Patriots. The Patriots are overachieving relative to the way they set their team up on the coaching staff, their defensive overhaul, and the fact that they're into their third quarterback. I won't knock them or put qualifiers on any of their successes this year. But eventually we need to know, are they actually good? So we're going to wait for these opponents like the non-negotiable, very good, every single week Buffalo Bills, or the maybe good Raiders, Vikings, Dolphins, and Jets to come along so we can get our answer. And you know what we'll do when they handle those maybe good teams? If they handle them, I'm not saying they're going to. We're probably going to see those teams aren't that good to begin with. It's quite a conundrum. My conclusion, before I bring in the senator, the Patriots are an average team playing good. And because they are the Patriots, their needle doesn't get pinned to extremes too often, at least under Bailey Zappe. Let's bring in the senator now and hear what he has to say about this. Here he is. Here's the senator. This is his day off. I'll remind everybody, Tuesday is his day off, ostensibly, but he doesn't ever take days off. So why does this happen that, the Patriot, we build them up, these opponents, the Patriots pummel them, and then we say, they weren't that good to begin with?
Well, I think because we're smart. I think that's the short answer. I think we know what we're looking at. I think we know when a good football team is a good football team. I mean, we were treated to watching the best football team in the world for about 2 decades here. And so that's an impossibly high standard to hold any team to in the post-Tom Brady era here. But I think we understand where a team is flawed, even if they're winning games and even if they're looking pretty good against opponents that we know, again, because we're smart, aren't great. And I always go back to, Tom, at least for the last few years, that 2019 season where the Boogeymen put together a historically good, statistically at least, season. And they were at the top of the league in a number of different categories. DVOA, which is supposed to factor in competition level, like they were at the top of the top. But it turned out they weren't very good defensively, or they weren't elite. They weren't a historic defense. They couldn't carry them past the divisional round against the Titans. So that's really the one team that I will always remember, especially when it comes to defense, Tom, because I think defense is such a product. How well you perform on that side of the ball, it depends so much upon who you're playing.
You know
right?
what?
I mean, you could be having an amazing season. All of a sudden you run into Josh Allen and all of a sudden you're not that good anymore. So what's the truth? That's where it, to me, gets interesting.
Yeah. And what is the truth? Do the Patriots make Jacoby Brissett play like he just learned football, beginning with his first downfield throw into a horrendous decision? I mean, to roll out on the first play of the game and throw into that level of coverage, first of all, on the Kyle Duggar pick, but also throw it really directly to Duggar. It's just, set the table for like, oh, he's going to be a disaster. And he kind of was. And I said before the game, and I would say it again this week, I'd take a veteran quarterback with a big arm over a rookie quarterback with not a big arm every time. But then you inject user error into it, or coaching, or decision-making, or reverence for the football, or understanding situational football, and you say, well, the Patriots are really good at that. That's why even if the Patriots might be of somewhat average talent in some ways, and I actually think they're of above average talent, they're just not going to waver. You're not going to get these wild swings in performance. So, and it's funny too, Phil, I wanted to mention that, not only 2019, but there was a 3-game stretch last year that convinced me that the Patriots of 2021 were really good. They lost to the Cowboys in that 35-29 shootout. Didn't think they were going to be capable, and Mac had a good game despite his pick six. Came back with a 75-yarder to Kendrick Bourne. Then they beat the Chargers in San Diego, which was ostensibly a good team, just loaded with offensive talent. They beat them out there 27-24. Adrian Phillips had a pick six. And then they just absolutely pulverized the Jets. I think they won 54-13. So I said, this is a really good team. And then they went into that same kind of 2019 litany of teams. They beat Tennessee. Tennessee didn't have A.J. Brown. They didn't have Derrick Henry. They didn't have much protection. I think Conklin was out, if I'm not mistaken. I might be making something up. Who knows? But Tennessee wasn't Tennessee. And they beat Atlanta with Matt Ryan and embarrassed them. And they beat a Carolina team that didn't have McCaffrey, if I'm not mistaken, or if they did, whatever. They just killed these teams. So we're sitting there watching it and chronicling it and saying, well, they're 9-4, guys. And then they face plant coming out of the bye. So those things have left a mark on us when we watch what's going on with these teams. And it's going to happen again, right? I mean, we're going to watch a Bears team, and if the Patriots choke them out, we're going to, well, they were no better than the damn Steelers. But if they're competitive with the Bears won't get the same credit the Patriots do. The Patriots will be slammed for not being dominant. And I'm not being a homer here. It's just, it's hard to mine through the conversation locally and really get a read on what the team is. Sorry, I babbled.
No, I think, but what you can pull away, Tom, to me, and I was saying this going into the Lions game, where we knew Bailey Zappe was going to be the guy, third-string rookie quarterback against a team that had been pretty efficient offensively, yards, points, all of that. That was a big Bill Belichick game, because that was the kind of game, if Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick, that you win, even with a third-string quarterback, even with the Lions not necessarily being the Lions of old, the 0-16 Lions. But we knew they weren't a great team, probably. And we still felt as though the coaching mismatch would be significant enough that you could win that one. I do feel as though, and I spoke to a coach in the conference before the Browns game, actually, and just asking, how do you think this one's going to play out? Because I did think that the Browns had some talent, even though they're dealing with a backup quarterback situation of their own. And I wasn't sure the Patriots were going to be able to stop the run. And this guy waffled, and he said, isn't it funny? Even when you look at a team like the Patriots and the situation is what it is and the quarterback is who he is, you still don't feel real comfortable picking against them because of one guy. It's because of one guy. It's because of Bill Belichick. So I think we can still say he might not have his early aughts fastball, Tom, in terms of just like what made him, but I think he's probably damn close. I still think he's an elite head coach, and that's something they benefit from.
He's got his sideline and game day acumen intact, I would say. And he does have the capability to, when he gets in against a team that is dumb or has a propensity to be convinced to play dumbly, that he can do it. I mean, that's what he did against the Lions. That's what he did against the Browns. He didn't do that to Rodgers. Well, he kind of did. I mean, that's a big star that first half, 4 for 11 for 40 yards or whatever it was. And Rodgers was Rodgers in the second half, but still he barely escaped. It's the things around it, the decisions made around it, that make us question Bill. Like, why is Matt Patricia the play caller? What? All those decisions make us skeptical that the game day fastball won't be there, but the game day fastball is there because he's got such a volume of knowledge in his head. But then you get into teams, which are forces of nature, that no matter how you scheme it up, Josh Allen can go, oh, yeah, how about I run around this? Or how about I just give it to this dynamic wide receiver that you certainly can't cover, no matter how many bells and whistles you're sending at me. It's the difference between going against Drew Bledsoe and having him melt down because there was no defensive lineman with their hand on the ground, and going against, I don't know, give me somebody who's smart from that. And Chad Pennington, you do that to Chad Pennington, he had his limitations, certainly not Bledsoe's arm, but anyway, I'm babbling.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is it not fair for me to say that, or is it unfair for me to say that maybe he doesn't have his early aughts fastball? Is this in some ways, if it continues, and I don't think Bailey Zappe is going to be playing again, but
yeah,
based on what we know in terms of Bill Belichick's involvement on the offensive side of the ball, if they continue to rattle off wins here and they end up in the postseason with him playing a massive role on the offensive side of things, we're seeing him not even watching the defense at times because he's coaching these quarterbacks in a new offense with no Josh McDaniels, new coaches on that side of the ball. Does this end up being, are we having this conversation a few months from now that this is one of the most impressive coaching jobs that Bill Belichick has done?
But we do that.
Is that a possibility?
Of course, because we do it annually. 2019, we did, 2020 with Cam, we did it. Might be his most impressive. Last year when they were 9-4, we did it. We do it every year because
I did it in 2018. I thought 2018, if they were to win that Super Bowl, leading up to that Super Bowl, that might be his most impressive year ever because they pivoted. They were a different kind of offense, that whole thing. So yeah, you're right. It's an annual occurrence.
So I don't think it's unfair. The difference is they don't have the best quarterback of all time. They don't have, as much as I love Duggar and maybe he will turn into him, they don't have Rodney Harrison at the back and Teddy Bruschi at the second level and Mike Vrabel at the second level and Richard Seymour up front and Vince Wilfork up front. I mean, it's Hall of Fame players. So they don't have them. So that's probably our difference.
Which helps his cause, right?
He is who he is. Yeah. Bill is probably throwing at the same speed. It's just some of the hitters are better on the other side than they were. Let me ask you this, though. What are the concrete reasons that are non-negotiable that the Patriots really do have in their quiver to shoot as an arrow on a regular basis that does make teams look bad and that may potentially make teams like Buffalo look bad? I don't even know who else they play that we can say is objectively a very good team, but I think there are elements of their team that are real that made those teams look bad. And I'll give you two. The run defense improvement and their their short yardage defense.
Those are two good ones, Tom. And listen, their rush defense, I think, still has a lot of room for improvement, but they have shown over the last couple of weeks against really good rushing offenses that they can hold their own. I just wonder if you get a team that's a little more balanced, right? And maybe that first half in Green Bay is the best example of this. They don't have a great receiving core there right now, but they still do have one of the best quarterbacks in football there and a pretty potent rushing attack. And what they did to that Packers offense through two quarters was really, really impressive. And I think on the other side of the ball, if you look at the Patriots, I think the fact that they are able to run it as well as we know they're capable of, I think that helped open things up for Bailey Zappe to have a 300-yard game the other day. Now, the Patriots running game got shut down. They were not really all that effective aside from the Ramondre Stevenson touchdown run and the Tyquan Thornton touchdown run. Not a ton of positive gains there, successful, quote-unquote, successful runs there. But the Browns worked their tails off to make sure that that was shut down. But what happens when you commit numbers to that? Well, then things open up through the air. So I think that running game will consistently be a threat. Even though they had a little bit of a down week this past week, it was because the other team sold out to stop them. Okay, well, if you're a competent enough passing game, you're going to be a better overall offense because of that. So I still look at their run game as something that they can lean on every week, even if statistically last weekend it wasn't the best.
Yeah, it's funny because that's when I made my prediction of the Browns winning, I think 23-16. I said the Browns it would be criminal for them to come into the game and not force Bailey Zappe to throw over their heads. It would be criminal if they come in and let Ramondre Stevenson run all over their faces because he is the only established, true, we know what he is. He'll do it to us if we let him threat. Bailey Zappe still is and will be next week too if he's actually playing in a prove it mode. But the Patriots allowed him to prove it, and he proved it on the first drive. That's what was so impressive. As I said, the key to the game would be the Patriots on 3rd and 4 or more. Could they be better than 50% or even competitive in conversions? And he had 3 3rd and 5 or more conversions on the first drive. He answered the bell. He absolutely answered the bell, which let's motor into it, the conversation that is ongoing. Our friend Chad Graff from The Athletic had this to say in his column Monday about the situation at quarterback, where we see Bailey Zappe gathering steam in some people's minds as someone who should stay as starter if indeed Mac Jones is cleared to play. And here's what Chad wrote. He said, it's too soon to think Zappe has a chance of becoming the long-term number 1 option for the Patriots. These were just 2 games, wins against bad teams. The game plans included a lot of short, easy throws, and they didn't ask Zappe to shoulder the load. But it's also worth pondering what will happen if Jones is cleared to play next week. At this point, it would be difficult to bench Zappe even if Jones insists he's feeling better, which, parenthetically, riding sidecar, if he's cleared to play and insists he's feeling better, that means he's good to go. But that doesn't mean Jones is number 2 on the depth chart. Chad Graff writes, meaning if he doesn't start, even though he's cleared and insists he's healthy. Graff writes, that's because 2 things can be true. 1, there's no quarterback controversy in New England yet. Mac Jones is a starter because he can make throws Zappe simply can't. But 2, the Patriots should keep rolling with Zappe for now, even if Jones insists he's healthy. That's the end of Chad Graff's offerings. And it goes back to something we heard 21 years ago. You can't lose your job due to injury. Well, Drew Bledsoe didn't really lose his job due to injury. He lost his job due to sucking, which he did in the preseason that year and in the first 2 games. He got outplayed by the guy behind him. This would be losing your job to injury if you're cleared to play and you can't get back on the field, as Chad is suggesting the Patriots ought to do. And again, we all got to write columns. We all got to have takes, and I don't blame Chad for putting that out there. There's an element of people who think that's not a horrible idea. Ride the hot hand. I don't think you ride the hot hand because I think there's too disparate a level of performance, a level of poise, a level of knowledge, and God, have people forgotten how many unbelievable throws Mac Jones made against Baltimore. Phil, your ball.
Yeah, I would look at it the same way you do, where, I think a lot of people have short memories, and I think people, often believe that the grass is actually greener when, the team wasn't playing all that well through those 3 games that Mac Jones is out there for. So I understand it, but I do think if you look at some of the context, i.e. the competition they're playing, and people might push back and say, well, how many great teams has Mac Jones beaten? Well, okay, that's fair, but we have seen him play well against defenses, in moments against defenses that we knew were good last year and that are, I would say, fairly competent this year. The Ravens one being the foremost example, even though he had 2 bad picks. I don't really include the 3rd one because that was such a desperation thing, and I wouldn't even really include the one where Devontae Parker ran the wrong route. But people could debate that, and that's fine. I do think you have to lean on what you know, and you are still in the finding out process about Mac Jones as well, like good and bad.
Yep.
I think a lot of people look at it right now and say, well, what has he done to earn that job back? Like, has he proven
or the loyalty of being the loyalty of it being almost like an appointment? And I don't think he has. Right. It is an appointment. Go ahead.
No, and I don't think so either. But I do think there's another side to that, which is you still don't know how good he can be yet either, because he's in a new offense, because he is young, because he's dealing with a new coaching staff. So can you let that breathe a little bit? If you felt like he had potential, can you let it breathe a little bit?
Right.
Before you go to this other guy who's behind him, who we all like, and it looks like he has some promise as well. but there's a reason one guy was a first-round quarterback and one guy was a fourth-round quarterback. And until the guy who was the first rounder, who has shown a lot of positive signs through a year plus with this team, really gives you undeniable evidence that he needs to come out, then I think as long as he's healthy, he needs to be in.
Yeah, I mean, the let it breathe is such a perfect way of putting it. There's no emergency. And for the folks who say, well, Tom Brady was a sixth-round pick and Bailey Zappe was a fourth-round pick, and now Bailey Zappe can't play because he was in the fourth round. Tom Brady was selected in the sixth round because a whole shit ton of teams believe that Lloyd Carr's decision to split time between Brady and Chad Henne, was it Henne? Yeah. Henne?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Was an indictment of Brady, despite all the numbers that Brady piled up, despite all the comebacks, despite the fact that he was 6'5". He had a shitty body. He was slow of foot, and he couldn't beat out Chad Henne.
That's not right. That's not Chad Henne. It's somebody else. Why can't we think of that name?
Fucking Chad Henne.
Chad Henne was Michigan, but he was 04 to 07.
Drew Henson.
Drew Henson. Jesus
Christ. It's too many. We've been doing this so long. People don't have to think back 1999. I'm scrolling back in the brain.
That sounded, I don't know why that sounded right.
Same kind of guy. I think they were both with the Cowboys. But Bailey Zappe was, the point remains. Zappe isn't Brady and Mac Jones isn't Bledsoe. Let it breathe. And you know what we can look forward to, Phil? Just dawned on me last night during an early edition, and I'll circle back to it. Next spring and summer is going to be really fun to watch because it's going to be a legit competition. Legitimate.
It could be, right? Depending on how Mac Jones plays. If Mac Jones comes in and he looks like Drew Brees, then there's probably not a competition there, right. I would think. But if it's the same as last year, then sure, yeah, I think it could be a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden, now we're talking about, well, what do you do with that asset that you have as a backup quarterback? Or do you hold on to him because you're not sure what the contract demands are going to be for Mac Jones? Those are down the line types of conversations, but that's why you continue to draft that position. And all of them are to the good, despite the recoil that people get when the conversation comes up because it is so chock full of hot takery. If you're a football fan, the Patriots are in an awesome position right now. And they're not in the position the Bears are in. And that's next Monday's opponent. Give me a first glimpse at the Bears and Justin Fields and what you're thinking of for next Monday. And then we're going to get to irrelevant questions with Deatrich Wise. We want to let that breathe because it's real good. Phil? So we're early into digging into this matchup, right? But this is a great example of how to, I think, ruin a rookie quarterback or ruin a young quarterback who's now in his second season. This guy has all kinds of talent. He came into the league with a few issues that I know the NFL really was concerned about in terms of his ability to get rid of the football on time. But he's such a great athlete, and he was so accurate when he did pull the trigger, arguably the most accurate quarterback in college football, depending on what types of throws you're breaking down. Mm-hmm. That he looked like he could be a special talent, like a taller Russell Wilson. Honestly, that was the ceiling comp for Justin Fields coming out of Ohio State. And clearly that hasn't happened. And it just looks like, Tom, he hasn't developed at all. Like he's still having these same issues. Instead of building an offense around him, surrounding him with some consistency on the coaching staff, really trying to prop him up as best as you can. And again, it's without knowing what's going on in that quarterback room, but it doesn't look like he's really developed at all. And so that's the tough issue for him. And now he's running around a lot. He's been banged up. He admitted after the game last week that he's hurt. So it's how to ruin a really supremely gifted guy at that spot, unfortunately for them. Yeah, a guy that both of us certainly spent a lot of time saying it should be an absolute consideration of the Patriots before that draft. But it was Mac Jones, and we most likely, from the conversations Phil has had, we'll see a Mac Jones who's ready to go, and we will find out whether or not the Patriots want him to go as the week goes along. But Phil, just the last on that, you've talked about your expectation is that Mac Jones
will be ready to go, and it'd be up to the Patriots to put him in or not. But I look at what the Bailey Zappe's commentary on Saturday, that he didn't find out that he was starting until Saturday night. I mean, Mac almost went in Cleveland. If you don't find out until Saturday night, and it also amplifies the fact that if he didn't find out until Saturday night, Bill Belichick's not looking at this as, boy, maybe I keep rolling Bailey out there.
No question. I think he was close. I believe that. That's what I was told. Mac Jones was close, but he was not 100% for this one. And that, again, based on the conversations that I've had, my expectation is, barring anything happening at practice or any kind of setback, that he'll be healthy enough to play Monday night against the Bears. And Tom, I was also told that this was deemed a 4 to 6 week injury when it happened. 4 weeks in 1 day from the day he was injured would be Monday night against the Bears. So that's still a relatively aggressive timeline for return based on that 4 to 6 week window. You're talking about the early end of that, obviously. But I think he's that close. That's a very, very, very realistic possibility. And so that's what I would expect.
I think it's important, too, to really get into that admission by Bailey Zappe that didn't find out until Saturday night. So the Patriots then were keeping their foot off the gas pedal with going ahead with Bailey Zappe, despite the fact that we know that Mac Jones was limited in practice throughout the week, was not able to take full reps, at least on Wednesday. Friday's a walkthrough, and so Saturday to a degree. But they played it out and played it out. Why would they do that if they had any doubts at all as to whether or not Mac Jones is getting back into the lineup when he's ready to go? So all the time and energy and air time and oxygen we're expending on whether or not Bill Belichick should say outright that Mac Jones gets his starting job back, that's the evidence. That statement by Bailey Zappe is the evidence that you have that when Mac is ready to go, he's in.
But wouldn't people now that wouldn't the Zappe supporters say
there's Zappe heads?
The Zappe heads, is that what it is?
Yeah.
They just wear lightning bolts on the sides of their skulls, or they carve them right into their hair, maybe.
Into their flat tops, yes.
Wouldn't people now though say, well, hey, okay, that's all well and good. Bill was looking to get Mac into that Browns game, but then the Browns game happened and Bailey Zappe threw for 300 yards. So now doesn't that complicate the decision? I wouldn't say that, but I could see people saying, well, he's won me over. You got to keep him in until he proves you otherwise. I think the Patriots know their best chance to win against neutral opponent X is with the guy who hasn't played the last 3 weeks.
Concurrence. Hey, Deatrich Wise, Irrelevant Questions. I want you to enjoy it, Phil, and I want everybody else out there to enjoy it. Skull Crusher, let it ride. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Irrelevant Questions yet again, and it's Deatrich Wise. Do you have any idea how many snaps you've played this year? It's a lot.
I have no idea how many played, but I know I play a lot. That's it.
Are you extremely sore the day after the game, or do you feel fit as a fiddle?
I mean, you have your general soreness, but then me, by like Tuesday, I feel fine.
All right. Well, let's get to the important questions.
Right, yeah, most important questions.
Would you rather hang glide or parachute?
I don't know, man.
Raekwon McMillan with the parachute.
Yeah, I'm gonna say hang glide because I can soar.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Fair. So you'd be good to do either one with the heights.
You know what? I have to build into the parachute, but the hang glide I can just do this. That would be fun.
All right.
Yeah.
This is a tough one, and I want you to reflect on it. How do you eat a cupcake?
One bite at a time.
Do you tear the top off?
First, I unwrap it, and then I bite into it.
From the bottom, though?
From the side.
So you run the risk of having icing on the nose.
I have run the risk of icing on my mustache, and the mustache is a good now or later thing. You can
receptacle.
Have it now, or you can wait till after and eat it after.
See, these are the things I don't reflect on. In case you wonder, and you're probably not, I rip the bottom off and eat it like a little cake.
So you do this and okay.
And it's a tiny little icing thing.
That's a lot.
How old were you when you first dunked?
I was actually in 9th grade. I would like to say probably 15-ish, yeah.
Who was there?
Nobody. My head coach was there at the time, and a few guys on my team. They were like, "Oh, snap! Wise, you can dunk." I was like, yeah, a little bit, yeah. So, yeah, I kind of did it. I went after it, and after that, I dunked every single day after that.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So no receding. Once you
Just
popped
went head
that.
forward. Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't do it in any games. I just did it in practices.
Again, you didn't ask me, but I'd never have dunked. What was the favorite bike you ever had?
I think it was like a 15 speed. One of those mountain bikes. I forgot what it was called, but one of the popular mountain bikes back at the time, like back in the 2000s. It was green with like silver little stripes on it. It had like the mountain bike tires, and I used to ride it everywhere, through the mud, through the grass, through the dirt. It didn't matter. How about yours?
I had an Apollo 5-speed orange with the big seat. Jeff, our cameraman, would remember that version of a bike.
Yeah.
You know, they were old school. I'll find you a picture when we're done here. Now, you mentioned last week that you're reading a book called The Power of Now. And I actually read that by Eckhart Tolle.
I'm in chapter 5 now, just to let you know.
What do you have more of a, and problem is a relative term, but being too far in the future or too much in the past? Because the whole thing he's preaching is stay in the now. Which one do you find yourself more often drifting into?
That's a good question.
We'll go to a break.
I tend to do a lot of self-reflecting, so I tend to see how I was in the past and how could I better my future. So it's a little bit of both, but I swing more into the past than I do into the future. And sometimes after reading the book, or while I'm reading the book, I'm understanding that the past is nothing but past, present moments that aren't going to happen again. Therefore, I should stay in the present, and I shouldn't be too far into the future because those are future present moments that haven't even happened yet. So I should remain where my feet are.
And where we are right now, we're having a great time. And by the time this airs, it'll be over. We can't revisit it, but we can look back and say it was a pretty good time.
You said by the time it airs, so you're in the future right now. You got to be right here.
You're right. I do need 22 years, your mom was a nurse in the Army. Did she ever come home and say, "Mom, my back hurts. Mom, I skinned my knee"? And she goes, "Deatrich, it's not a big deal."
You know, I think I was more it's not a big deal. Yeah, I played outside. I was one of those rough kids, so I'll come home with everything and anything. And as long as I could walk away from it and still move my limbs, I was fine.
What superpower would you really love to have? And which one would you say, I don't know if I need that?
Man, every day I think I would really. That's a good question because I have a top 3. Like,
Okay.
my top 3 is strength, speed, and telepathy. So teleportation.
Oh,
My bad,
teleportation. That's
yeah.
so just extreme quickness.
Pretty much being able to like teleport from here to anywhere, be strong and be fast. So
Okay.
I can like run with guys like Taekwondo and them. And I really wouldn't want invisibility or the ability to read minds. I don't
Same.
Yeah.
You know what I don't want? I don't want supersonic hearing. Nobody needs to hear that
I
crap.
don't want to hear nothing either. I mean, not hear nothing. I don't want to hear what I don't want to hear,
Yeah.
Yeah, because that could be anything. You could you hear a bottle top opening, you hear a bee, then
Yeah.
you hear it's too much. It's like,
Next thing you know,
I'm hearing the wrong things.
careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
You're going to like this. I have to get a little loud here, though. Okay? This is a portion of the program. It's called, hey, what's your number? And I ask you the number that you wear on your jersey, and if that's the one that you would prefer, and what number you would prefer if you could choose any number.
91. That's a good number. Yeah, I like it. It's my dad was number 90 when he played, and so I'm 91. And my brother's 92.
And your dad played
Well, he played NFL and CFL.
Yep.
But when he was in college, it was 90. It was 90. So that's his number, 90. So it was cool when I got 91. I was like, oh, that's what's up. And then my brother got 92. And then my other brother, my third brother, he played in college, and he was 94. So it was just kind of like one of those cool things that just happened.
Did you guys do some damage around the house, the Wise boys? I mean,
According to my mom, there was some damage, allegedly. by the three of us.
You never played with Chandler Jones, but it was funny. He would explain, because his brother also played, it was Arthur, played tight end for the Colts, and then you got Bones, and then you have Chandler. Imagine the dorm damage with those three and the Gronkowskis, the dorm damage.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Yeah, I would like to. I would have liked to play with them as a kids, both the Gronkowskis and the Joneses.
Yeah, not me. Last question. Let's go back in time a little bit. Do you have, what is the Tom Brady story that you like to tell friends that illustrates what kind of a guy he was when you played with him?
Currently, we're in the same area when I first met Tom Brady. Actually, not this spot, but it was actually through them doors.
Yep.
And I'm going to the weight room like I love to do. And while I'm finding my weight card, he comes beside me and is like, "Hey, Deatrich, how you doing?" First day, like it's like maybe like my second day in like practice, but like really my first time actually meeting him. He said my name, said how I was doing, and I wasn't baffled, but I was like, in my head I was like, out loud I was calm, I was real cool. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm good, Tom. How you doing?" I just called him like that, and he just chuckled and said he's doing well.
So that's like 2015, right?
No, that was 2017.
17. Okay, so the guy's already got 4 Super Bowls. And
Yeah. He's been there for a while.
good guy. I always say to people, he is and was as decent a guy one-on-one and as enjoyable to talk to one-on-one, even more so than when he was at a podium. I always enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah.
Regular guy.
Yeah, he is just another guy.
This was enjoyable too. We had a great time.